what strategy would you say fits, or I guess if you had to pick a strategy that you think is the best strategy, and then what's right for different people?
Honestly, oh, go ahead.
No, you go, Jon.
Honestly, I would say you got to think of it like a portfolio. You gotta have a good blend. Now, I'll tell you that one method does work its way into another method. So as I was going out and I was doing rental arbitrage, I had people just message me, "Hey, I got an apartment. I want you to manage it. I don't want to stay at your place, but I want you to manage my place." Well, I'm like, well, I don't do that, but let me be open to doing it. So I'll come look, and I was able to do it the exact same way I would do it with the regular landlord. So it worked out perfectly. But yes, one way does at least spew into another way, and then you'll find confidence to go out and buy a place. Maybe it's a place that you want to be. Maybe it could be, like a place in Costa Rica or someplace where you want to spend significant time yourself, but you find yourself very confident in, hey, this mortgage is only $2,500. So all I need is a few people to come stay a month, and I can come stay the rest of the time, and I live free. So honestly, it's going to be a good mix, and you should always have a mix. Like Julian said, his co-hosting method is more so risk adverse. So having that extra revenue kind of guaranteed helps. I mean, that's almost like a paycheck, right?
Yeah. Were you freaked out, Jon, when COVID kicked off? I mean, having 40 of these that you have signed leases on, you're on the hook for paying those rents, right?
Yeah, actually, we are growing even right now. So prior to COVID, of course, we were doing great, excited for the high season, and high season hits, and so does COVID. So literally get knocked right off, and just seeing the amount of cancellations that kind of happened within that month to month and a half span was a little jaw dropping. I mean, well, not even a little. It was really bad. I mean, literally, you see tens of thousands just erased from your future bookings, and you're kind of thinking like, what in the world to do? But in all of that, we found other ways to get booked, and we found our way to longer reservations. So it was kind of like a lesson within a lesson. And yeah, that's what's carrying us through right now. That's why we're expanding even in this moment.
Nice. So you kind of pivoted to the longer term renters. Got it.
Yeah. And it's going off of that portfolio diversification that Jon was talking about again. That model that we're talking about we call that the RCB model of investing. So rental arbitrage, co-hosting, buy and hold. And you really have to look at it kind of like a portfolio of properties. They're all managed the same way. They're all short-term rentals. It's just the strategy in which you acquire those units and how they affect your portfolio all differ. Co-hosting, you could kind of look at it as like a bond. There's not as much risk involved. The returns aren't as great. They're still really good, but they're not as great as if you, let's say, owned a property. But if you own it, you're putting in a lot of capital, and the return can be greater, and you get that added benefit of appreciation and equity, but you're not going to be able to scale as quickly as if you were to do rental arbitrage, because rental arbitrage, the upfront cost is very nominal compared to what you're actually able to cash flow. So essentially, you take that cash flow that you're making from your arbitrage units, you blend in co-hosting, managing properties, so you're able to lower your risk of your total portfolio. And now you've got good cash flow, lowered risk, and you're in a position where you can go and either scale up your properties, or you could go out and purchase properties with the cash that you're already making. So cash flow is really king in this business. And that's really the heavy focus with this model. I think the end goal for everybody is, definitely you want to have a nice portfolio of, some buy and holds that you can long-term rent as well. And that's kind of the end game. But if you're not there, why are you trying to purchase a bunch of property if you don't have the money to be able to go out and purchase these properties? You're not going to be able to scale as quickly. It would take you, 30 years to be able to, purchase a property or to be able to pay off a property, or you can expedite that process by short-term renting it or by getting enough cash flow to be able to, earn you the same amount that, having one long-term rental would do. So That's really kind of the strategy. In the same way that, like, let's say Marriott, during the last downturn, Marriott owned a bunch of properties. All these hotel companies, they were just purchasing properties because they were in this growth phase and they were doing really well. But during the last recession, they realized, like, okay, we own all of these properties. There's a lot of risk involved with that. So they started just offloading properties, selling them. And then, Marriott was actually able to grow during that time. They switched to a franchise, primarily more focused on the franchise model, where they were just managing the properties for other people that own the buildings. And that's how they were really able to pivot out of that situation. That's the flexibility of this model. But it's even better for us just because we don't have an entire, let's say, building. We just have, smaller portions within a building. And we're able to have more flexibility because our places are, well accommodated for people, like, for longer term stays. If we need to be able to get someone in for a month, we can do that. You're not going to be able to do that in a hotel. If we need to be able to, just break even and get in a long-term tenant, we can do that. You can't do that in a hotel. So that diversification is really what is important with the strategy.
Yeah. That's key. And what you mentioned too around the speed, as a long as a buy and hold investor primarily, I've never done any of the rental arbitrage or master leasing, but I always plan 2 to 3 months minimum between when I purchase a property and actually start renting it out, because I'm renovating the property and staging it and getting all the furnishings and stuff. So if you're doing the master lease, you could potentially have it up in a couple of days, right? And start having income within a few days. So that's huge. I mean, that makes a significant difference in income as well. So